She showed up to the most important job interview of her life with a cracked nail, a rehearsed smile, and a wrench in her bag she didn't know she'd need. And what she did with that wrench before she even sat down changed everything. Not because it impressed anyone, not because she planned it, but because Maya Chen had never once in her life been able to walk past something broken and do nothing. That single instinct, quiet, unglamorous, completely her own, was about to rewrite everything she thought she knew about where she was headed. Maya was 34 years old and running on 4 hours of sleep and sheer momentum. Every morning started at 5:15, not with an alarm she resented, but with the particular silence of a small apartment where you are the only adult, and the weight of that lands on you before your eyes are even open. She'd pad to the kitchen, assess the fridge like a field medic. Today it was a half-eaten jar of peanut butter and the last 4 slices of bread, and build her daughter Lily's lunch out of whatever was left. Before she zipped the bag shut, she'd fold a sticky note inside. The same note, written fresh each morning in her looping, unhurried handwriting. "You are the best thing I ever fixed." Lily was 7. She couldn't yet read cursive, but she always unfolded the note anyway. Maya earned $31,000 a year managing maintenance for a mid-sized apartment complex on Chicago's Northwest Side. She'd once held a full plumbing license and a job she loved, until her ex-husband left and the unpredictable hours became impossible with a child and no backup. So she scaled down. She took what she could get, and she did it without complaint, and she got good at it. The building had a heartbeat, a low, constant hum from the boiler room she passed each morning, and she'd learned to read its moods the way some people read weather. Her uniform smelled faintly of iron pipe and industrial soap, cut through by the lavender dryer sheet she tucked in each week. A small thing. Hers. Her left boot was held together with electrical tape she rewrapped every Sunday night. She hadn't bought new shoes in 3 years. She was 2 months behind on Lily's after-school program fees, and she knew, with the quiet dread of someone who's managed bad news before, that a letter was coming. She hadn't told anyone about the interview. It had arrived 3 weeks earlier, a formal email from a company called Hargrove and Associates, inviting her to interview for a facilities director role, paying $87,000 a year. She'd applied at 11:30 on a Tuesday night, half asleep, thinking nothing would come of it. The address was a penthouse floor in the Meridian Tower, a building so tall she'd never once thought to look at its top. She'd read the email so many times that the printed copy had gone soft at the folds. The night before, she borrowed a blazer from her neighbor Diane. It fit everywhere except the left sleeve, which fell a half-inch short. She didn't mention it. After Lily fell asleep, she practiced her handshake in the bathroom mirror, whispering answers to questions she imagined powerful people asked. She did not sleep well. She went anyway. The lobby of Meridian Tower was the most beautiful room Maya had ever stood inside. Marble floors that reflected the chandelier above them, a fixture that looked less like glass and more like frozen rain, suspended mid-fall. A young assistant met her at the desk, visibly over-caffeinated and apology-prone, and walked her to the elevator without quite meeting her eyes. "Mr. Hargrove is having a morning," he said, in the careful tone of someone who has learned to warn people the way you warn them about a steep drop. The waiting area on the 47th floor had floor-to-ceiling windows. Maya found her neighborhood in the skyline and stared at it longer than she should have. She was still looking when the door opened. The man who walked in didn't look like power. He looked like someone who'd given up performing it. Gray Henley, no tie, reading glasses pushed up on his forehead. He held his coffee mug the way people hold things when they need to hold something. He introduced himself as Elliot, just Elliot, and gestured toward a chair. His shoes were expensive, she caught that immediately, but scuffed. His watch was plain. There was a small grease stain on his cuff he either hadn't noticed or had stopped caring about. He apologized for the sparse room. "Things are a little held together with tape right now." Maya almost smiled. She knew what tape held together. Then she heard it. A high, thin dripping from the bathroom just off the corridor. Persistent, rhythmic, the kind of sound that burrows. "Third day of that," Elliot muttered. "Maintenance," said Tuesday. It was Thursday. Maya said nothing, but her eyes moved to her bag. She excused herself before the interview began. She told herself she was only going to look. She opened the cabinet under the sink. The problem was immediate and obvious. A loose compression fitting on the cold supply line, the kind of fix that takes 8 minutes if you have the right tool. She had the right tool. She'd been carrying it since her apprenticeship at 22. A small adjustable wrench worn smooth at the grip. She looked at the faucet. She looked at the door. She thought about Lily's lunch. She thought about the blazer sleeve. She fixed it. 8 minutes. She wiped the cabinet dry, replaced everything, washed her hands, walked back out, and sat down. The dripping had stopped. The silence hit the room differently. Elliot lifted his head. He looked toward the hallway, then back at Maya, who was smoothing the borrowed blazer over her knees and opening her notepad as if nothing had happened. Their eyes met for half a second. Neither spoke. The interview began. His questions weren't what she'd practiced for. He didn't ask about 5-year plans or leadership philosophy. He asked what the most satisfying problem she'd ever solved was. She told him about a burst pipe at 2 a.m. in a building full of elderly residents. She'd arrived before the fire department. No one lost anything. He nodded slowly and wrote something down. Then he asked what the hardest part of her job was, the part no one in an office ever understood. She paused. "That buildings have feelings," she said. "They tell you what's wrong. You just have to know how to listen." He went still for a beat. That was when the door opened without a knock. The woman who entered was mid-40s, precisely put together, and radiating the particular energy of someone who makes decisions about other people for a living. Carol Briggs, head of HR, she clocked Maya in a single sweep, recovered her expression, and drew Elliot aside. Maya looked out the window at her neighborhood and pretended she couldn't hear. She could hear. Her resume shows 2 years in apartment complex coordination. This role oversees 11 commercial properties and a $14 million annual budget. "I'm not sure this is the right fit." Carol said it gently. "The way you say things, you've already decided." Elliot returned to his chair without responding. He asked one more question. "If you were starting from nothing, what's the first thing you'd fix?" Maya thought of the sticky note, the electrical tape. Marcus, the teenager down the hall she'd let back into his apartment without charging the fee, whose mother was 3 months behind on rent, Maya hadn't reported because she couldn't make herself do it. "The thing that's been dripping the longest," she said quietly, "because by then, everyone's learned to live with the sound. And that's the saddest part." Elliot didn't write anything down this time. He just looked at her. Then he was pulled out for a phone call, and Carol moved in. She was professionally warm in the way that functions as its opposite. She walked Maya through the scope of the role. 3 states, multiple properties, executive-level budget decisions. She said, with careful kindness, "We wouldn't want you to be set up to fail." Maya nodded, picked up her notepad, thanked her. Then Carol offered to tell Elliot that Maya had left early, a family thing. She said it like a courtesy. Maya met her eyes. "I'll wait for him to finish his call, if it's all the same to you." Carol blinked once, left. Maya sat with her hands folded, notepad in her lap, posture straight in a blazer with one short sleeve. When Elliot came back, he looked at the empty space where Carol had stood. Then at Maya. He sat down slowly. "My head of HR thinks I should end the interview," he said. "I know," Maya said. A long pause settled between them. He leaned forward. "Why did you fix the faucet?" She looked at him directly. "Because it was dripping, and I knew how to stop it. That's all." He was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed. Not politely, not performatively, but the way people laugh when something finally makes sense after a long time of it not making sense. He reached across the desk and turned a magazine face up. Forbes. Full cover. The man in the photo was wearing the same gray Henley, the same scuffed shoes. The headline read, "Elliot Hargrove, net worth $4.3 billion, the man who fixes what everyone else ignores." Maya stared at the page, looked up, looked back down. "You didn't know," he said. "I knew the shoes were expensive," she said. "I thought maybe you were a dentist." He laughed again. The corner of her mouth moved. He hadn't been interviewing for the facilities director role, he told her. He'd been searching, for 2 years, for someone to lead a new division entirely, a rapid response infrastructure team, a small group deployed to failing properties to diagnose and fix systemic problems fast. He'd seen 11 candidates. He'd told each of them about the faucet. Not one had done anything about it. The salary was $112,000, benefits, flexible hours, a company car she didn't have to return on weekends. She asked what happened to the other 11. He said, "They talked about systems. Nobody looked under the sink." Carol appeared in the doorway. She saw his expression. She saw the offer letter already printing. She left without a word. Somewhere behind her, the young assistant made a sound he immediately covered with both hands. Maya called Diane from the elevator on the way down, offer letter pressed against her chest. "I need to keep the blazer a little longer," she said. Diane's scream echoed in the marble lobby. Maya held it together until she reached the parking garage, and then she didn't. She paid Lily's program fees in full the following week. The director handed her the receipt and said they hadn't been planning to send the letter. Maya nodded like she'd known. She hadn't. She sat in her car for a long time. She bought new boots, plain black, no tape. The old ones went in the back of her closet. She wasn't ready to let them go yet. Maybe she never would be. Some things you keep not because they're useful anymore, but because they're true. 3 weeks in, Lily spiked a fever, and the backup babysitter canceled, and Maya sat in the school pickup line, feeling the old dread flood back. The fear that the opportunity was already too large for her, that Carol had been right about something even if she'd been wrong about everything else. She almost called in. She went in. On her first walkthrough of a flagged property with her new team, she heard it before she turned the corner. A low, rhythmic drip from the east utility corridor. She walked straight to it, crouched down, opened the cabinet. Behind her, her team followed in silence. The youngest member, a nervous 23-year-old fresh out of trade school, watched her work. When she told him that buildings always tell you what's wrong, that you just have to be quiet enough to hear it, he wrote it down in his notebook. She didn't see him do it, but it happened. She didn't get the job because she fixed the faucet. She got it because she couldn't walk past something broken and do nothing. She never could.